Okay.
Hello and welcome to Tea and Tice, a Great British Wrestling podcast for Great British Wrestling, as featured on bodyslam.net and the Jonas Podcasting Network. Because this is all new, all different Brit Wres roundup to our usual. As we say, Big Daddy Dan is taking a break at the moment. Hopefully he'll be back with us. But for now, I've got a great co-host. My name, of course, is the Great British Attacker, Mr. Andrew Moore, Andy to Most, and I am joined by one of the voices of talking nonsense about Impact Wrestling, Mr. Impact himself, Craig. How are we doing?
I'm very well, thank you. In fact, glad we could get this in the books. And been, as I said before we jumped on, meaning to work with you guys some time. Big fan of what you guys do, so glad we can do this. Excited to chat some wrestling.
Thank you very much. Of course, we have noticed you guys do a lot for British wrestling, despite being, Impact focus. You like to drop in the Brits, and of course, you just interviewed Zach Knight. Is that right?
Yeah, Zach Knight. Zach Zodiac. Yeah, great chat. Very open and honest about his mental health, and amongst other things about Fight Mare and fighting with my family movie. Very, very good chat.
Awesome. He's doing some great things, of course, with RKJ. They've been taking their rivalry across the UK recently, and it's been at Rev Pro UK as well now. So it's good to see. He deserves it, I think. He's a quality wrestler. Well, I thought because you are Mr. Impact, you are talking non-stop Impact Wrestling. Let's talk about Joe Hendry making his debut in Impact Wrestling. Well, re-debut, I guess, because he was part of... how long ago was he part of TNA?
2018. So almost 4 years to the date of when he was last in Impact. He made a return to Impact.
Yeah, because a lot different now, because he's put on almost over 100 pounds. I would say about 50, 60 pounds since he was last there, and he's very big. He's going to be a completely different Joe Hendry to what we saw before. He was a bit more comedic last time in Impact, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's teamed with Grado and Katarina Lee, and it was a lot of Impact fans at the time weren't hot on it. I maybe it didn't translate well to them, but it was I thoroughly enjoyed it. Of course, he had visa issues which prevented him from performing in the States for Impact, but had performed mainly in Canada and in Mexico. But he had a very good run. His last match in Impact for coming back was against Eli Drake at MediaCon here in UK, which was a fantastic match, even though Joe got booed out the building, and Eli Drake was the most over person on the card for some strange reason, which I get. Eli Drake was a very interesting character, as well, of course. LA Knight is basically the same thing. But yeah, it was Joe Hendry back in Impact. I was very excited when the Impact announced it again, because I've been fortunate to have seen Joe in person twice. Once back in 2018, and again at a Wrestle Carnival show, The Hunt, I believe it was, in Nottingham, and I had a great match against, I forget his opponent's name, but it was his opponent's second ever match as a pro wrestler.
Oh, Judas.
Yes,
Is it
Judas Gray.
Yeah,
Judas Gray. Yes, yeah. Which was again, I really enjoyed his work for someone still quite new. And yeah, Joe Hendry is facing Brian Myers for the Digital Media Championship on Impact this week. Hopefully Joe wins, because Joe fits that digital media age very, very well, and I think is someone who can, especially now currently is an Impact so over with the Impact fans. It's like everyone seems to believe in Joe Hendry, and I have for quite some time.
Yeah, what do you make of his gimmick? It's kind of half motivational speaker, and then, well, I guess it's kind of what it is to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. His
Hmm.
promo 2 weeks ago in Vegas mentioned people in the crowd who have probably lost it all and have lost it all, have to go back to their family. But the one thing that makes it okay is that they got to see Joe Hendry, which was spectacular.
I think let's go with the cult of Joe Hendry. We believe in Joe Hendry. I love it. Be very interesting. I think I think a big win for the Digital Media Championship would really set him off in good stead. And Brian Myers, of course, big name, good scout. Yeah, I like it.
It suits him.
He's not quite done with the UK at the moment because he's going to be in Edinburgh this weekend on the 13th, I believe, for Discovery Wrestling Year 7, where he's going to defend the Discovery Championship against BT Gunn, probably assuming he's going to be dropping the title so he can go concentrate on the US. We don't know if he's going to be back and forth. Do you know, if you had anything, because you mentioned visas before, do you think he's got the full working visa and he's going to be able to move out to the States full time?
I mean, I imagine so. Obviously, it was unfortunate with his Ring of Honor run that, the whole world shut down because of COVID, and then Ring of Honor not knowing where they're going to be after, obviously, having to shut down, releasing everyone. But obviously, they're back, and I'm thankful Impact picked up Joe Hendry again. I know Scott D'Amore was quite high on him back in 2018, but again, issues out of everyone's control stopped any sort of momentum, really. But I imagine, I don't know, because Impact, they have a very loose schedule. It's pretty much as long as you make yourself available for the 2 days of Impact tapings, maybe 3 days if you include the Impact Plus specials or pay-per-view. You can pretty much do whatever you want. As long as you prioritize Impact, then, because I didn't know he was facing BT Gunn, and BT Gunn and Joe Hendry are two of the biggest names of Scottish wrestling and British wrestling. So that's going to be a banger. But I hope Joe can still stick with the UK scene as much as he can. I know Giselle Shaw is popped over occasionally, so she's more focused with Impact. But it's another name for the British scene who's also competing for an Impact title next week, as facing Jordan Grace for the Knockouts World Championship, which is going to be excellent. So I imagine so.
I look forward to the match he's going to possibly have against Josh Alexander at some point, because with the amateur wrestling backgrounds of both guys, I think that would make for a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, that would be a fantastic match, because obviously Joe's only had a couple of matches in Impact, popped up in the Coil Shot Gauntlet. So one of the biggest reactions of the night in the Coil Shot Bound for Glory. He got a better reaction than Tommy Dreamer and Bully Ray did, really. So against Josh Alexander, Josh as world champion, whereas Josh Alexander in general hasn't missed when it comes to having a banger. Everyone he's faced at a banger against. Tomohiro Ishii, he's faced off against an unsurprising banger against Charlie Haas. So I think Josh and Joe will have a great match, because Joe hasn't really had much chance to show what he can do to the new people, the new crowd he has to get over with an Impact. Of course, everyone knows he can do technical wrestling. His match against Kurt Angle at WCPW speaks volumes, and his match is one of my favorite matches from WCPW and / Defiant. So I'm very excited to see what Josh and Joe can do. It has to happen. Whether it's for the Impact World title or not, I don't know. But I'm excited to see what those two can potentially do.
Absolutely. There's a few more matches obviously on that Discovery card. Let's give them a bit of a shout out. Where's the Twitter one? There we go. Kings of the North versus Sunshine Machine for the Discovery Tag Team titles. Mark Haskins versus Aspen Faith Anything Goes match. a strap match between Griffin and Caleb Valhalla. Who else we got? We got Gene Money in action, and it was recently in. I've lost his name. Diggy Divers, and oh god, he was in Noah recently. He's going to be there as well. I've completely lost his name out of my head. Is it Jack? Jack Morris. Sorry, Jack Morris, of course. Fantastic competitor. He's back in the UK, of course, along with Chris Ridgway after their runs in Noah. Yeah, I think Hendry's going to be excellent. One guy who's going to be free, apparently, come 2023 is Nick Aldis. Now, Nick Aldis had a good run with Impact, had a good run with TNA. I think he really did, and he made the NWA relevant again. And what do you think to Nick Aldis possibly maybe going back to Impact Wrestling?
I mean, 2 years ago, if this had been a question, could Nick Aldis return to Impact? I would have said no. I think it was a lot of issues around that. As Magnus, when the first British wrestler to win a major world title, was huge. Then it kind of, I guess, change of management or whatever came about, and a lot of that bridge seemed to be pretty much burnt. But then this past year, Aldis and Mickey James teamed up to take on Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green at Multiverse of Matches. Aldis popped up at Slammiversary for the Impact Originals versus Honor No More. So I think it's a possibility we could see Nick Aldis back in Impact Wrestling as Nick Aldis. I know he did come back as Nick Aldis before NWA as part of the GFW thing, which was just a mess. But I could see it if it's not Impact, then potentially AW. But I think Impact is probably one of the best shot at the minute to bring Aldis back in, because as you said, he made the NWA so relevant again. One of the first match I ever saw live in person was at MediaCon, but it was Nick Aldis versus Douglas Williams in a No More Contenders match for the NWA World Championship. The winner going to face Cody Rhodes. That's been All Out. Or NWA 73, I believe it was. Yeah. Aldis is really onto something with this National Treasure stuff, and he has been for a while. So I'm excited to see it because he's got that. I guess he's got that old school feel to him as the National Treasure. So I think it's a possibility with Impact for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Impact was, where he really made his name to begin with. He had a great run with the British Invasion, Doug Williams and Rob Terry. Yeah. And then later, not Nigel McGuinness. It was, what name was he using at the time?
Oh, Desmond Wolfe.
Desmond Wolfe, that was it. But I could possibly see Cody having a word with WWE and him fitting in quite well with the new style of WWE. But I think I'd rather see him go to Impact 100% because I think he's suited there and he's big name now.
Yeah, he's come a long ways from Brutus Magnus.
Yeah, I'd also love to see him back in the UK to do a few more matches. I know he was recently there for 1PW, but it'd be good to see him back in the UK if possible. Yeah. Now, one of the ones I did, thought we'd have a bit of fun for this one. Now, with Impact Wrestling, I said to pick 5 UK guys you think could do really well in Impact Wrestling right now. I'll let you do your 5 first.
Yeah, so choosing 5, it was proved to be pretty difficult, but I've just about managed to whittle it down in a sense. A big one for me is someone I've wanted to see in Impact for a while is Session Moth Martina. I think she'd be a great addition to the Knockouts roster. She's got something different in this gimmick, which I'm all about. I've only been fortunate to see Session Moth in person once as a Kamikaze. She had a fantastic match against Lana Austin, and it wasn't until I felt what it's like being in an arena watching her. I was when I thought, yeah, Ring of Honor had something, but again, the world shutting down put the brakes on that massively. So I think Impact could be a nice fit for her in the sense of Impact needs a bit of a fun gimmick. They have Johnny Swinger in a sense, but I think in terms of knockouts, Session Moth could be great, and she's a great wrestler. Not only a fantastic character, she has superb wrestling ability and could put on a bang with pretty much anyone on that roster. And so even some of the men's division, she could have a bang in matches with. Next up, I've gone with man like Dries because he's just having a phenomenal year, years. He's faced Eric Young at a Wrestle Carnival, which again, lucky enough to be in attendance for that one. It killed it. He's had great matches with Spike Trevay for the Progress World Championship. Of course, winning the Carnival Championship against Crowley and the North Tag Team Championships with Leon Slater. I think Dries. Dries will be well suited to being on TV, like is seen worldwide. I would really like to see Dries. And speaking of Crowley, that's still got at number 3 because again, it's that character, that the abilities, the year he's having, facing the likes of Scotty Duhati and Axel Tischer and Maxie Impaler, there's so many others. He's just been killing it on this scene. Then I've gone with, believe this should be more after this one. Robbie X, again, a superb, someone who should have been signed a long time ago, and for someone still so young, but he's 26 years old, and he's just having bangers with everyone. And X, the X division, yeah, it'd be a perfect fit because again, you can have matched 5 matches with likes of Chris Bay, you can Ace Austin at 1PW. I mean, what a banger that was at 1PW, and Speedball McBailey, they've had bangers in the past. That's someone I really would like to see. Then finally, I've got Alex Windsor because it's Alex Windsor.
Yeah.
Again, just a epic year for her, and winning championships in Japan, being the former Queen of the Carnival champion, to
Rev Pro champion.
Her match with Jordan Grace at Wrestle Carnival was spectacular. So that's an easy way in for having another contender for Jordan Grace for Knockouts World Championship, and someone who believably could be Knockouts World Champion very, very easily.
She actually holds a win over Jordan Grace as well at Wrestle Carnival. I think it was their 3rd show, Pure.
Yeah,
they faced off and she picked up the win. But yeah, no, I like those. Great picks. Picks. It's
some amazing. Some people I missed off the list as well because I had to whittle it down to 5, and those are just some people who are having the best year on the UK scene and in the world in general. They're having fantastic few years. So
there's been so many great performers right now, and the UK scene is it's heating up again. And I know there's
Yeah.
a lot of naysayers out there, but I would say to them, get your asses to a show and stop sitting on your internet and just saying it's dead. Get yourself to a show and you'll see. Okay, so now I've gone for my 5, and Robbie X was also my first pick because, you know, as you mentioned, it's in the name. I've gone with Chris Ridgway. I think he's completely different, and at the start, he can make his way through the X division, do a bit of a Samoa Joe, you know, just clear out the X division before going on to have an absolute banger with Josh Alexander. That's the main reason. I want Ridgway versus Alexander. That would be great.
Fantastic.
I've gone for a young man from Scotland, Daz Black. I think he's a phenomenal performer. He'll be great again for the X Division, but he's got the size and weight that he can move easily into heavyweight and world contenderships. He's got a great look and is a phenomenal competitor, and I just think he would do really well. I've cheated and I've gone with the She-Wolves, because the She-Wolves, Molly Spartan and Casey, you know, Impact Wrestling, they take women's wrestling seriously, and they have done for a long time, and Casey and Molly would just absolutely kill it out there. And then I've gone for another cheat, CPF, the Close Personal Friends, British version of the Rascals. Get that match with Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz, because they will absolutely kill it. I think I'd go with Newman and Lando as the pairing to face them. I would like all 4 of them together and just let them be themselves on camera. I think they would just be quite endearing to the fans, would take to them quite quickly. But they were my, well, I cheated, or was it forced it? It's 9 picks out of 5, but technically 5.
Yeah, I mean, CPF, absolutely. The Impact World Tag Division is kind of it fluctuates a lot. It goes in and out. Obviously, just lost the OGK to AW, which kind of knew was coming eventually, but that soon. And see, things for Impact, they tend to, if they get on the way out, they'll give them a tag title shot. They did with the Briscoes because I guess they had them and wanted to make the most of it, which I get. But yeah, and also the She-Wolves, because the Knockouts tag division, again, it needs an injection of something, and I think the She-Wolves, and I did have them on the list, but I decided not to cheat, and I went with the Royal Aces, because I think they would be a superb fit in tag team division and singles competitors. But yeah, those are some, again, there's the Zach Zodiac, Zach Knight mentioned it when looking to interview him, that there's some of the best wrestlers in the world in the UK scene right now, and deserve a big spotlight, which I can't disagree with.
And Impact is still a great stage for performers to get their name value up, and I think there's a lot of guys who could do really, really well over there. There is a lot of former and current Impact superstars heading to the UK actually in February for 1PW. They're in action 18th of February in Lincoln, no turning back. You got the Rascals, Trey and Zachary Wentz. They're going to be facing Boisterous Behavior, Leon Slater and Man Like Doris. That's going to be great.
That match was incredible.
No, it's just when I first saw the Rascals were in, I'm like, it has to be CPF. But you know, if it's not CPF, it's Boisterous Behavior. I'm happy with that, because Leon Slater and Trey Miguel, that's just going to be absolutely insane.
Man.
You've got Rhino's going to be in action. Davey Richards is going to be in action. Ty Valkyrie's going to be in action against Tonga. That's just been announced today, actually. And of course, Johnny Impact Johnny Superstar, or Johnny whatever his name is. I guess he can be Johnny 1PW for the
yeah. Johnny every name.
And then you've actually got Will Ospreay and Robbie X as well on the card. So that's a fantastic lineup for 1PW. I'm impressed by that.
excellent. I mean, 1PW, obviously, was a little bit familiar with when I started like getting into British wrestling, because I know they were around a while ago, coming back, and it's they have a brand which can get a lot of eyes on British wrestling. They can bring in the imports who are crucial a lot of the time in attracting people to British wrestling shows, which helps people become familiar with British wrestlers. I mean, I started going to independent shows when I went to a Kamikaze show, Relentless Rules. It was, the main event was Jody Fleisch versus Drago in a Lucha Libre rules match. And I was familiar with Drago, so I thought, okay, I had to go with that. And then started adding Joe Janela. But then I became a fan of Chantal Jordan because of that. And man like Derice had a excellent match against Sean Custom. It's so many. I think that definitely helps British wrestling when they can bring over names. When they've got the names to bring over, it helps British wrestling as a whole. So it's going to be a positive thing.
See, I was at the reverse. It was when a bunch of British guys started turning up in US things. I'm like, where are all these guys coming from? And then I'm like, oh, there's a UK wrestling scene. Kind of got into it that way. But yeah, that's a fantastic lineup for 1PW. I think Tonga and Taya is going to be a lot of fun. I can imagine great interactions between those two, actually. So that's going to be a great one. Sov Pro Wrestling released their show on YouTube. I know you caught it. I know I watched it. First impressions of it as a whole?
A very, very good show. And a good solid way to start off. I mean, again, there's a few people on the card I wasn't familiar with, but I knew the name. I just hadn't seen them in action. But no, I mean, Mariah May and Harley Hudson in the Dreamhouse death match was excellent. I'm not a massive fan of deathmatch wrestling, but this wasn't on that level as we've seen in other companies like TNT, etc. It was
a fun side death match, a fun death match. How do you? It's a weird sentence to say, but that's what it was. It was a fun death match.
Yeah, I mean when Harley was chasing Mariah May around with a fishing net was excellent. I mean, of course, like everyone in the building, it seems at that point, cringing when the Lego came out, because everyone, not everyone knows what it's like to step on a drawing pin thumbtack. Not everyone knows what it's like to go into glass, but everyone knows what it's like to step on a piece of Lego.
Yeah.
So,
not pleasant.
It was a fun one. The Crown Cup match I thought was really good. Simon Miller and Kid Bandit over like Rover. I was not expecting that pop for Simon Miller and Kid Bandit, but Kid Bandit has got himself a name on the UK scene.
Yeah,
and really coming through. I again knew the name, hadn't seen them in action, but I really enjoyed their work. Ian Skinner, I believe, on commentary, popping up on commentary occasionally, aping the match.
I love Ian Skinner.
It's excellent.
That last little bit, I really enjoyed it once it all cleared down and it was just Ian Skinner and Kid Bandit. That's for me when I really, the whole match was chaotic. It was fun. It was your typical multi-person match. But once it got down to Ian Skinner and Kid Bandit, those two really meshed really well. And I would love to see both of them go at it once again in a proper singles contest. Because by that point, obviously, Bandit had been competing for quite a while. You can see that they were slightly tired, but they still put on such an excellent, you don't want to call it a routine, but kind of is. And, but they had it down brilliantly, and that really piqued my interest at that point during that match.
Yeah, it's a very fun match, and also written down one note because I wrote notes down, which is something I rarely do for my own podcast. But the trophy and the world title bout, beautiful. I'm a big fan of that, of the title bout and the trophy. When it comes to Brit Wres, you don't get trophies like that a lot.
No.
I mean, occasionally, the British J Cup, etc. But that trophy was spectacular, and and Kid Bandit picking the win, I like that.
Yeah, it was enjoyable. It was a big pop for the crowd as well. Because a lot of people did come to see Kid Bandit. It was their debut in the UK. They really made a name for themselves on YouTube, on Twitter. They've marketed themselves really well, and they've got a great fan base in the UK. Because I recently saw a North Wrestling show as well, and they were on that. Again, the crowd really receptive towards Kid Bandit, so that's great to see. And like I say, excellent interaction between them and Ian Skinner. I thought the ring looked good. The having Sov Pro ring aprons was very good. I would have maybe had the lights a bit more closer to the ring, so the lights were really on the ring, and it darkened out the fans a little bit more, because you could, see very much everything on the night. It was very bright. The crowd were definitely into everything. They really loved it. The opening match fell well, and Maverick Mayhew, I very much enjoyed that. I think the two performers are, the future of British wrestling, and they put on a great display. Lucia Lee and Aurora Tevez, that a lot of fun match. I'm a big fan of Aurora Tevez. She's a little dynamo. Lucia Lee, again, she's been really making a name for herself, and she's a vicious little bruiser, and the fans were certainly behind her on the night. And,
definitely. Those two are two potential breakout stars for next year, I think. Aurora Tevez, I've seen a couple of times at PEW, Phenomenal Wrestling, and their former women's champion. Great. I've seen Lucia Lee at Kamikaze a couple of times, and just excellent. Both of them, they can definitely have a breakout year for next year.
Definitely two to watch out for, and both of them have now been entered into the women's 6-man scramble match, which will be for the championship, the first ever women's champion at Southern Pro's next show, which is the 5th of February. Heavy as the Head is the name of that. You've also got Joseph Connors, who of course won the main event. Solid main event, solid fatal 4-way. Typical. It did spread out across the entire bloody arena.
Yeah,
they went everywhere.
Yeah, it was a very, very fun match. Joseph Connors, again, someone else who's had a great year, but maybe isn't mentioned as much as it should have been. A great year. Again, been looking enough to see him a couple of times in person, and he had a match at Kamikaze against it was MVK.
Oh, I saw that one. Yes.
Yeah, obviously a highlight was when I believe it was MVK hitting a suicide dive outside and into the barrier where my family and I were sitting.
Yeah,
so that was a nice fun little view.
I must say, because if just in case Big Dan is listening, it is MVK Valgabius. Sorry, I have to do it. But I really enjoyed the Levi Muir is a absolute stud of a young man. I think he's going to have a great year for 2022. Joey Hayes, Danny Duggan was a good match. What do you make of the Kelly Six stable? Leighton Buzzard and who was he was with? Danny Duggan, of course.
But,
yeah, Danny Duggan was in the match. Of course, it was Danny Duggan.
Yeah.
So Six, Duggan, and Buzzard. What do you make of them?
Excited to see what they can do. When I saw Leighton Buzzard after the match in the ring, cutting the promo, my brain went where he was. My mind went straight to NWO Shawn Michaels with the Kangol hat and just the cut off T-shirt looking jacked.
I see it now. I can't believe I didn't see it.
I just thought, yeah, it's very pretty much spot on if you're going to do a Shawn Michaels NWA thing. But no, I think I'm more familiar with Leighton Buzzard than with the rest of the group. But
yeah.
I'm really call themselves the Collective, if I'm remembering that right.
I think
along those lines.
I like because it kind of got built up over social media. We saw Kelly Six arguing with Shotty and the other marketing guy over at Sov Pro, and they were doing a lot of back and forth on Twitter. So it was nice to see the follow through, and I think that did create a bit of interest.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what they can do because Leighton Buzzard, again, as a name I'm very familiar with. Kelly Six I've become more familiar with over the last few months, but again I'm always down for a faction in wrestling in general, and I really hope something will work out because there seems to be a lot of potential in this group. I like the dynamic it can provide.
I think the only match we didn't talk about is the tag team match, which was the 8-7 versus CPF of Danny Black and Just Joe Lando. I did like the back and forth again with the promo videos that they both did. That was quite fun. Really good at points, not so great at other points, but a fun match overall.
Yeah, it was. I thought I'm again more familiar with CPF, but I'm aware of the 8-7. I was more aware of Roy Johnson, but the 8-7, there's definitely something in that. I'm excited to see what it is. Roy Johnson's pounce, I was again because when he caught that right on this, you believe just as the match was over when he kicked it again. That was my favorite pounce from that match.
Yeah, when the match was actually over.
Yeah, because it looked great because he nearly
put Danny Black out the ring.
Yeah, there you go, Danny Black, and it was couldn't quite remember which one it was, but yeah, it was. He nearly put him out the ring. That looked great. So I'm excited to see the 8-7 because I've heard a lot of good things from a lot of different people.
Yeah, be interesting to see if they incorporate Warren Banks when he gets back from the injury list. And I think on a couple of independent shows, Levi Muir and Remy Atunji have actually also been part of the 8-7. Remy Atunji is Rev Pro contender, and obviously Levi Muir. I think it might be only one of them did. I can't remember which one it was, but it might. I'm sure it's both of them got picked up on the 8-7. So that would be a really interesting stable if they incorporate that as a whole group. Yeah. Overall, I would say it's a very good show. I'd give it, on our sugar rating, a good 3.5.
Yeah. I have to agree. It was for a first show of a brand new company, a very solid show, and it's made me want to go to the next one, which I will be attending the next one because it looked like and then they've got the Academy in Manchester, I believe, for the next show, which I'm a big fan of that venue. I was there for Catch's second show just after the pandemic, after the lockdown rather, and it's a very good venue, which I'm looking forward to seeing what Sov Pro can do because they've got a good look, and intrigued to see what it's like being there in person.
That's it, yeah. I'm due to be in Germany again in March, so it will kind of all depends on how much I've put away by then and what I'm doing, because I'm going to go to the 16 karat gold. But there have been, of course, announcements for the next show, 5th of February, as you mentioned, Manchester, the Academy. Heavy as the Head is the name of it. You got Joseph Connors defends his title against Simon Miller. I thought they quite never ended that quite well. So on the last show, that really heated between Simon Miller and Joseph Connors. Yeah. I see Connors retaining, and I think you got to establish a heavyweight champion, and I think Connors could have a good run as a champion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on that one myself. Connors, first champion and all, it's got to mean something. Which,
yeah.
And it's just the first defense against Simon Miller isn't a bad way to start.
So I think it'll be a good match. Two big guys, heavyweight wrestling. I think it'll be a good one. And I'm really, really excited for the match they announced over the weekend, which is Endakara versus Leon Slater. Now, we all know Leon Slater. He's amazing. He's just brilliant. But Endakara, a young man from Sweden, Turkish heritage. He is the Turkish assassin. He did train at Kamikaze back in I think 2018 actually. There's a match with him against Man Like Doris on YouTube.
Yes, I know the name now. Yeah.
But since then he's gone on. He's worked with WXW. He's trained down at the WXW Academy. He's been one of the cornerstones of what they call Scandic Raps over in Sweden, Norway, and places like that. But he is one of the fastest wrestlers I think I have ever seen, and I mean like probably faster, probably faster than guys like RKJ and Callum Newman. So him against Leon Slater is going to be an absolute crazy display of speedball wrestling. I just think the guys are going to go nuts. It's going to be great, and I'm really hyped for this match. And so should everybody else. This is going to be the match to watch on this card. So no matter what they announce now, these two guys are going to win the match of the night, because it's just going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, again, dropping soon in the next couple of weeks. I had the opportunity to interview Leon Slater a week or so ago, and the guy is incredible. Having again another person on the scene having a fantastic year, and so early on in his career as well. Heading over to GCW and just killing it. So, and Endakara, I know the name now. I think I was in attendance for the match against stuff from Doris. But yeah, that one should be a banger. It's definitely one to watch.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that's going to, for me, it's going to steal the show. I'm sure they're going to announce some other great matches along the way, but I'm confident enough to say already just those two guys will probably steal the show, and definitely keep an eye on that match and catch Sov Pro for that. I think they'll probably be on pay-per-view again following the event, so definitely go check that out. Now, I watched Purpose Wrestling, their last show, Hungry Like the Wolf, which is available on their Patreon, and they're releasing matches now on YouTube, so you can catch some of the matches available. Purpose Wrestling, I'm a big fan of what they do. I'm just going to run through the matches and give you a couple of my quick thoughts. Mad Kurt versus Rex Armstrong. Ava White and Sky Smithson versus Amira and Maya Matthews. Jordan Breaks against Dan Maloney. Bullet and Ollie Peace versus the Dead Sad Boys, Billy Hayes and Jay Joshua. The OJMO versus Karen Brigante from Italy. Nino Bryan, Connor Mills and Vaughn Vertigo in a triple threat match. So just quickly, Rex Armstrong back at a lot of fun. They had a drink off before the match even started. So there was lots to play with, and the crowd very much enjoyed this match. And it was fun. Ava White, Sky Smithson, Amira, and Maya Matthews. 4 women absolutely smashed it. Great story being laid out between Maya Matthews and Amira. And Sky Smithson is definitely will always be one of my favorites. She's an absolute fantastic. And Ava White, I know she's going to be out for the rest of the year, but really, really good performer.
Yeah.
Nino Bryant, Connor Mills, and Vaughan Vertigo is insanely good. Just 3 guys who can absolutely kill it. Nino Bryant, for a young man, is going to have breakout 2023. Definitely, he's going to be someone who's going to be everywhere. Connor Mills, for me, he's always been a bit overlooked due to his pairing with Michael. Oku, OJMO. I've always thought Connor Mills was the better performer. But OJMO and Karen Bagrante, they killed it. Jordan Breaks versus Dan Maloney was a great showing of how technical wrestling can overcome power. So definitely go, if you can, check out on their Patreon. I think it's only £4 a month for their Patreon. I really like the production that those guys put into it. In fact, I had David Francisco on our show. It was released yesterday. When this is going to be released, it's going to be released yesterday. And we talk about the next event that they've got coming up, which this weekend features Jordan Breaks versus Mad Kurt, the 0121 versus the Teens with Attitude, Kieran Lacey and Mark True. The team of Peace and Bullet versus the Bryants. That's Nino Bryant and his brother Xander Bryant. Laura Di Matteo versus Livy Grace, and David Francesco versus OJMO. And it's really they do their shows out of the Merton Art Space in Wimbledon. As I say, do some great shows over in London, working alongside the now London School of Wrestling, which was formerly Knuckle Lock. So you get a lot of the younger performers who you'll probably see on Rev Pro UK and progress within the next year or two.
Awesome.
So definitely go check them out. I saw Rev Pro UK because they're doing live streams now on their that show. So I caught that yesterday. Another good show for Rev Pro, one of their live in London shows. So it's not, their big shows. It helps sets the stage for the up and coming bigger shows. And that's what this show did very well. Yeah. Luke Jacobs and Will Caven, 2 big cruiserweights over the championship. It had a screw finish where Caven cheated to win the match. Referee called the match, but then referee and everyone came out and they restarted the match. I hate that. It's not a spot I like in wrestling. I'm just like, no, referee, final decision. I don't like those restarts. What do you think of that type of...
I'm a bit mixed, I guess. If it's, I guess how they want us to think. If it's a heel and the match gets turned over because of some heel antics, I'm fine with it because it's like with Wrestling Impact. It is the same thing of the X Division Championships. Speedball Matt Bailey lost to Kenny King, but lost the title to Kenny King, but the referee came out and overturned the decision because of involvement from Maria. So that I was fine with that because it's against a heel, I'm not supposed to like them, and they got their just desserts. But as a spot in general, I think like everything in wrestling, it has its place, and it is as long as it's not overused, like things in wrestling in general, if they're not overused, I'm fine with it as long as there's a payoff to it, I guess.
I agree. I think the only reason I dislike it is because, well, why don't you just do that in every match? And then if you do that in every match, then you can't have a heel be a heel because the heel will never be able to cheat. So I don't know. I think that's the reason I've never really been a big fan of the spot. But I can see, if it doesn't get overused, I guess, but I don't know. Leon Slater took on JJ Gale. Really, really fun match. These are 2 excellent young performers that are, again, the future of British wrestling. Leon Slater picked up the win. He's a little bit ahead of JJ Gale in development, I guess. And after the match, he called out Zack Sabre Jr. for a match at Uprising.
Oh dear.
That's going to be really interesting, and I look forward to that. Alex Windsor teamed up with Maya Matthews to defeat the team of Kanji and Mercedes Blaze. This has all been leading towards Kanji and Alex Windsor are going to have the double championship match, unification match, because Kanji is the Southside champion, but of course Rev Pro UK overtook Southside. So, and of course Alex Windsor is the champion right now. So that's going to be an interesting situation. After that, you have Michael Oku call out Connor Mills after Connor Mills turned on him. And it was actually Amira who kind of took control and started having a go at Connor. Connor then swung for Michael Oku, but missed and kicked Amira in the head. So now Michael Oku wants to fight. And so that's going to again be an Uprising, which is December 17th in York Hall. So that's going to be another good match to look out for. Michael Oku versus Connor Mills.
Yeah.
Robbie X defeated Nathan Cruz. Two great performers, two top level performers. Excellent. So great match. Sunshine Machine defeated Greedy Souls by count out. So Greedy Souls retain the Rev Pro UK Tag Team Championships. Again, if it's not an overused thing, I think it can be done very well. And I think Greedy Souls used it really well here, because they were like battling on the outside, both teams, and it's 10-9, and Greedy Souls looked like they were going to dive back in with Sunshine Machines, but then we're just like, actually, no, we're just going to stay here. We're going to be smart. First title defense, come away with the title.
Yeah, we don't have to.
And then in the main event, RKJ versus Yota Tsuji, again, leading towards eventually having Ricky Knight Jr. versus the Great O'Khan at Uprising on December 17th. So, great match. But
yeah,
let's look at that York Hall show, December 17th, RKJ versus Great O'Khan. What do you make of that matchup?
I mean, Ricky Knight Jr. is again, and someone who's having a excellent year with bangers against Will Ospreay and pretty much everyone. But, again, RKJ is someone we're fortunate to have on the pod, and unfortunately I didn't get to speak to him because of technical difficulties, but good buddy Peter Nixon, he did, and it's clear his passion for the business, obviously being involved, coming from one of the biggest families in British wrestling, though the biggest family in British wrestling. It's clear how much he puts into what he does, and the Great O'Khan. I mean, what can I say about that guy? This match is going to be a banger, and
still undefeated in the UK as well, technically.
Yeah,
so it's going to be a great match.
It's going to be so much fun because RKJ is one of my favorites in the scene right now, and Great O'Khan has just been tearing up in Japan. So,
what about that? Zack Sabre Jr., Leon Slater.
Again, I mean, Zach blazed the trail from the UK scenes to being one of the biggest guys in New Japan, and Leon Slater seems like he could eventually follow that path laid out by Zach and Will Ospreay, or by Pete Dunne potentially with heading to WWE and all that stuff. But that's going to be a banging match, and Leon has already had bangers all over the country and soon to be all over the world. And before the year's out, he's going to have another one with one of the best technical wrestlers the British wrestling, in my opinion, has ever produced in Zack Sabre Jr. So I'm excited, really excited for that one.
Yeah, it's really interesting. when you look at Leon Slater, he's very much in the mold of, say, Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay and Zack Sabre Jr., despite obviously being so different in styles of wrestling, always had a great match. So I think Zack Sabre Jr. could lead Leon Slater possibly to a 5-star matchup if Dave Meltzer's got his nice hat on today. You got Alex Windsor versus Kanji as well. What do you think of that matchup?
Again, Alex Windsor is another one who's just having a killer year, and Kanji, I know the name, but I've only seen wrestle, unfortunately not in person, but I've seen on Progress stuff on the network. Again, Kanji is she's a great wrestler, and her best of 3 series against Giselle Shaw is what opened really up my eyes to what Kanji's all about. And facing Alex Windsor, who is just arguably, if we're going on
in the world,
if we're going on what the PWI Women's 500 is, the best women's British wrestler.
Yeah, number 25, I think she was, so fantastic. I've known 24. Really great to see Alex Windsor up there. Great.
Yeah, and she's just going to kill it, making history all over the place. And I think if we're making predictions, I think Alex Windsor is the one who picks up the win on that one.
Yeah, I think Rev Pro UK favour Alex Windsor. Big Andy Quilden's big fan of the Iron Lady, as they say. I think they're going to absolutely kill it. You've got 2 of the best in the UK. Kanji should have been higher on the PWI. Alex Windsor 25. I'll still argue that the British women got overlooked a little bit in the PWI, but hopefully next year we'll see a few more names, considering how many great performers we have here in the UK. I think Lizzie Evo didn't even get on the list. How do you leave Lizzie Evo out?
It's beyond me.
Sorry, go.
It's saying that Lizzie Evo's another one who's had a killer year. Catch Women's Champion, just she's had a match for the ICW Women's Championship, and she's just having obviously been NXT UK for that brief stint. It's that list. Obviously, it's a good thing. It's an opinion and not fact.
Yeah, I agree with that. So a couple of other big match announcements from around the UK scene. Charlie Morgan versus Lizzie Evo in a no DQ match at Wrestle Carnival's Carnival of Champions, which is on the 29th of January at the HMV Empire in Coventry. You going to be at that one?
I'm gonna do my absolute best to be at that one. Definitely. I was at the last show at the Empire, what was supposed to be their first show at the Empire. It main evented with Crowley versus Tisha and Derice versus Eric Young and Jetta and Charlie Morgan. So many bangers. Lizzie Evo and Charlie Morgan, again, 2 of the best this country's ever produced. And I'm in a no DQ match. I think that could get really, really fun. Yeah,
definitely. I'm hopefully going to be over at Wrestle Carnival that day as well. So if you're there, come say hi. You've got Pure Maverick is going to be there. Sam Bailey is also going to be in action. Emerson Jane is going to be in action. Ava White is going to be in action. And so is the Queen of the Carnival right now, Jetta. I'm really excited about this future X Cup. Nino Bryant, Mark Drew, CJ Rawlins, and George Lydon. You're a bit more local to Lydon and Rawlins. Have you managed to catch much of their work?
Mainly George Lydon. Been at Kamikaze quite a bit. Yeah, his match against Ridgeway.
Oh yeah,
that's made him. That's got his name out there, and I'm excited because again that Carnival four-way match. I believe he pinned Big Guns Joe in a four-way match. I think as a forget who else. I think Top Gun Tommy Carl was in that match as well, and I forget the other guy. Sorry, from Coventry, local guy, huge. Jim Diehard. That's the one.
Jim Diehard. Yeah. I remember the match.
Again, killer. CJ Rollins again. I've heard of. Someone I want to see more of for sure. But George Arden is exceptional, and hopefully I can get him on chat soon. working on it.
I think CJ Rollins a bit more Birmingham way. He's been doing stuff with Black Country Championship Wrestling. I think really been making his name and No Mercy. But I love Nino Bryan. I've seen him in action. He's fantastic. He's very, very small, very young still, but a phenomenal high flyer. And Mark Drew has had an MMA fight. He's competed in MMA, and he's had some really great matches. A young man that I think is going to do really well. And of course, you got a main event: Leon Slater versus a man like Dries, which, let's face it, is going to be amazing.
Yeah, they're going to do so much because obviously with having this tag team as well, there'll be a interesting dynamic in the fact they know each other so well, and it's going to have a bang of a match. Leon Slater is on fire, and it's going to continue for seems like a very long time.
Indeed. Moving on to TNT Extreme, because they're going to be back with GCW once again. So they've announced the dates for next year, 15th, 16th, and 17th of September. Did you catch any of the TNT GCW stuff? Did you buy the pay-per-view?
No, unfortunately not. It was it's something I've been meaning to catch up on. I believe it's all on Fight Plus, so I'll be getting that.
Pro Wrestling TV, which is free.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the buzz was insane, and again, it benefits British wrestling massively. Cardona against DeReese. Haven't seen it, but I already know it's gonna be a banger. Cardona and Maloney. You're gonna kill so many people on this part of the GCW roster. I mean, people involved in that show. Some incredible guy, Tony Deppen, just excellent. But facing the British guys, I'm a big fan of, like I said earlier, I'm a big fan of when that happens, when a company can bring over familiar names, especially Matt Cardona, because even if you're a casual fan or whatever you want to call it, you know Matt Cardona, you know Zack Ryder, you know what he's about, and Matt Cardona is the king of the indies worldwide to be part of the show. It's a big thing for British wrestling as a whole, which I'm all about. But as a company, that's definitely my list. Gotta get to TNT. Probably going to go to the Birmingham show when that happens, because Liverpool's a long way.
Yeah, it is quite a distance, even for myself. But yeah, always fun shows. They've got their Cold Day in Hell show, which is the 4th of December. And at Extreme Fields, Rampage Brown turned up. And now Rampage Brown's going to be facing Dan Maloney for the heavyweight TNT championship. Give us your thoughts on that match.
Big meaty men slapping meat. What else is there? Rampage, I've been familiar with for quite some time, because there's time with Impact as part of the British Boot Camp, which needs to come back, by the way. Definitely. And Dan Maloney, obviously being a regular Kamikaze, I've seen a lot of Dan Maloney, and that's gonna be a banger. I don't what's more can be said than that, because it's gonna be very, very hard hitting. But at the same time, Driller can throw some athleticism in there to mix it up a bit. I'm looking forward to either catching that live or catching it on demand. Either way, it's one I won't be missing.
Yeah, Maloney, he's almost becoming the new Rampage Brown. He's got that power, and he's becoming very dominant, especially with TNT Extreme and the west side of England. I think he's been extremely dominant. I think, him versus Rampage is going to be brilliant. There's Pro Wrestling Eve Wrestle Queendom Show 5 coming up soon. Lots of international talent coming in from Japan for this show. Quickly go run down the card. Laura Di Matteo versus you. That's a title versus title match for the Pro Wrestling Eve International Championship and the Pure One Open Class Championship. Millie McKenzie versus Miyu Yamashita, which I can't wait for that. That's going to be brilliant. Uprising versus Session Moth Martina and Hyper Mazal for the Eve Tag Team Championships. Charlie Morgan versus Emerson Jane in a lights out match, and Jetta versus Alex Windsor for the Eve Championship. And recently announced was Casey versus somebody. It was announced today. But what do you make of that card so far? Looking at that, what I just mentioned.
What a card! I mean, you've got some of the best from overseas and some of the best women's wrestlers in the country. Millie McKenzie, who again heading to NXT UK, that should have been her breakout and made the world really see her.
They did not do her justice, did they? Having a backup, she almost as a lackey. She was almost the bad girl for Mako Satomura. The young trainee. I kind of see what they were trying to do, but it really just didn't do much for Millie. And I think she's better off back on the independent scene.
Yeah, she's exceptional and still, again, very early in her career to show everyone what she can do. Of course, Jetta be on the card, Charlie Morgan, Emerson Jane, who had a excellent match at Carnival for the Pure Championship against Chris Ridgway.
Yeah, Emerson's a badass.
That's Pro Wrestling Eve just tend to have fantastic cards. It's some best of both world situations with those cards.
Yeah.
One of my favorite matches to go back and watch is from Pro Wrestling Eve, Session Moth versus Su Young. That's the match I've caught 3 or 4 times, and every time it's excellent.
Yeah, they've done so well with the connections over in Japan, because I think there's 3 different lots of Japanese promotions all being involved in this Pro Wrestling, and Wrestle Queendom, of course, their biggest show of the year. So it was Casey versus Rio, which was announced today. So again, another absolute banger of a match. Going to be a lot of fun. Now, the last one I want to talk about while I've got you here is Progress Wrestling. And I think it's All Over show, and their 11 match card, which is Spike Trevay versus Jonathan Gresham, Big Damo and Axel Tisca versus Luke Young and Chris Ridgway, Kid Lycos versus Chuck Rambo in a hair versus mask match, Kanji versus Lana Austin for the women's championship, RKJ versus Tate in the natural progression final. Tom Dawkins takes on Bullet, making his first in-ring debut match for Progress. Charles Crowley versus Elijah, Alexis Falcon versus Laura Di Matteo, Cheeseburger versus Man Like Doriz, Anthony Agogo and Adebayo Akinfenwa versus Malik and Costa Costantina, and Rio versus Sky Smithson. Lots of great matches. But it was on Twitter, it was being discussed, a lot of people saying this is too much. 11 matches. Look, I think 11 matches is great, and I think it's brilliant for the live crowd. I think sometimes when you look at Progress shows in the 3.5 hours on the demand services network and things, I'm like, 3.5 hours. That's going to take me 2 sittings to get through. But what do you make of the chatter about people? I mean, should people complain about being given 11 fantastic matches?
with that, it's, as you said, it's great for the live crowd, but if you watch it on demand, it's obviously a lot to go through, because unless you're watching it live, like I've watched a couple of progress shows recently, and whilst the matches were great, I'd have preferred to have been there.
Yeah.
And I think I would have enjoyed them a bit more. But 11 matches, yeah, that's quite a lot. But breaking it up into, I guess, into two halves, it should be a really, really good show. You've got Anthony Ogogo and Adebayo Akinfenwa, who Adebayo Akinfenwa, when he's playing football, he got a lot of attention for being a wrestling fan.
Yeah, and he was known as the strongest footballer in the world, and was so on FIFA, I believe, for like every game that he was on. He was always the strongest player on the game.
I can believe it. So again, that's another aspect that brings people who maybe aren't massively into wrestling, or used to be into wrestling, but are into football and know of his presence on social media and all that stuff. That's an added draw in a sense, as is Anthony Gogo, who everyone knows is the Olympic medalist, and obviously now with AEW, if he is still with AEW, I have no idea. But that's a very, very strong card. When you look at the title matches, especially Lana Austin, I'm really enjoying what Lana Austin is doing. I've had a couple of run-ins with her myself.
She's incredible right now.
Yeah, once she just tore my sign up and threw it over me.
Yeah.
And then at Carnival, she got me by my hoodie and tried to get me into the ring. I said to you, go in the ring, get back in the ring. And then after the match, she stole my hat. So
it's good old Lana Austin. She's amazing right now. I think it's time. I think she's going to take the belt here, because it's time. If you don't do it now, I think you're going to miss the opportunity to do it. So I say do it now. Mambo Lycos, who's losing mask or who's losing their hair?
I mean, from what I saw of Lycos' match against
Chris Brooks, I'm guessing.
Chris Brooks. Lycos,
his mask was ripped off.
Yeah, it's pretty much
his
gone
face
anyway.
now. So
I can't see Mambo wanting to cut that hair.
No,
unless he's in the mood for a haircut.
I think if it hadn't been for that match that he had against Chris Brooks, I probably would have said Lycos never losing the mask. But because he wrestled at least half of that match without his mask, basically, it kind of makes sense that it's probably time for him to break away, maybe from the gimmick, and start anew. Not as, the guy that used to hang around with Chris Brooks.
Yeah.
What that will mean for Kid Lycos too, I don't know. So that'll be really, really interesting. It's 11 great matches. If I was there, you're probably going to have a great time. I'm going to watch it on demand, and then it's probably going to take me 2, maybe 3 sittings to get through. It depends on how quickly they run the matches. If Bullock destroys Tom Dawkins maybe in 2 minutes, or maybe, Lana Austin experience all attack Rio as soon as the match starts, so it gets thrown out. So that's not there. So it's going to depend on how they book it. And it's going to be really interesting. I saw the chatter online, so I thought we had to discuss it. I myself, I look at it, I go 11 cards. Yes, it's a lot. I don't think that would put me off going to the live show. I know some people did say that they would put them off. I don't see why having 11 great matches for the price of what you would normally get 8 matches. But I kind of see where they're coming from. How long is it going to be? Should they maybe run smaller shows in between big shows, is what I suggested last week, like Rev Pro UK do? you know, they're still on a learning curve at the moment. Both Martin Best and Lee McAteer, they're new owners, they're new to wrestling. I think they've done a great job so far, and it'll be interesting to see where they go in 2023. But I think it's all looking positive for British wrestling. Don't you agree?
Yes, very. It's getting back to the place where it was at its best, and as far as the in-ring capabilities of the people on the scene, I think this is the best you've ever seen.
Yeah. Right. Tell the people where they can find your work.
Yeah. So you can follow me at Mr. Impact Craig on social media, at TNIW channel for where you can catch everything we do on the channel. Also subscribe to us on YouTube at TNIW channel. Talking Bloody Nonsense with myself and British wrestler Peter Nixon airs every Thursday at 9 o'clock. TBN chats with the likes of Lizzie Ever, Rio, Charlie Morgan, Ricky Knight Jr., PJ Knight, Zach Knight. So many of incredible guests and so lucky to have. They're all available on YouTube. Follow us here, there, everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever you podcast. But besides that, I want to thank you guys for having me on the show and getting to chat some British wrestling, which we're kind of getting back into on the Talking Bloody Nonsense. So it's always a fun time because the scene's on fire.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on. Of course, guys out there, go support Impact, go support Talking Nonsense about Impact Wrestling, Talking Bloody Nonsense, and all the TBN chats as well. Go support British wrestling, go support independent wrestling, and remember one thing: don't feed the trolls.